Happy Mother's Day, everybody. I wanted to record this. It may be beneficial, testimony to somebody. But my Mother's Day began with Isaac having a seizure this morning. So he's actually been seizure free for a year and 4 months, and this has been the longest we've been seizure free. And I calculated it was 478 days, and we actually about a month ago weaned off of his seizure medication, and the doctor was aware, and I knew every medication has side effects, and really with doing the Doman program, our ultimate goal was to get off as many medications as we can. And being that he hadn't had seizures for a year and 3 months, it was I just felt in my heart it was time to wean off of the medication, and also I felt like I was ready for what's to come as far as knowing from a conventional medicine side, seizures are scary, and your child could stop breathing and something could happen, and so staying in that mindset, we've pretty much always ended up in the hospital, and there wasn't much that your doctors would do. They would check him out. By the time we would get there, they would the seizure would calm down and stop, and then we'd get discharged home within 5-6 hours. And so this was actually our second seizure that we've just stayed at home and been able to wait it out. We did, and I'll talk a little more with the medication and stuff. But I woke up, Isaac was very restless and making these weird sounds, just kind of a grunting, and I went and kind of laid next to him, and just in my heart felt like something felt a little bit off, and so I just stayed by him. And then he wasn't as responding normally, just kind of had a little bit of a glazed look on his face, and I knew that his body, he was kind of starting or going into a seizure. And so my heart began to race, and I felt like I was going into that panic mode that I've gone into. And I took a few deep breaths and really kind of grounded myself and prepared myself, because I knew that we were going to have to go through another seizure, just like I knew that, knowing that, what understanding from a non-conventional side, we've doing the Doman program, and then I've was recently a seminar on myofacial release, and how seizure activity actually sometimes helps to all the signals start firing through the brain, and it helps to reorganize the brain, or something happens that the body needs to process all those signals, and the seizures aren't a bad thing. And so in my mind, I was prepared for this, and so I began praying. I put my hands on him, and I just began confessing and declaring and peace and restoration over his body. And about a half an hour later, I just felt like I needed a moral support, so I asked the caregiver to get Dennis, and Dennis came and sat by me, and he said, let's go ahead and give the medication, and go ahead when his O2 sats were a little bit low and his breathing was very shallow, and so I went ahead and administered the medication and just had this like sense of peace in my heart about what was happening, and like I knew that I didn't want to end up in the hospital, and I was just allowing Isaac's body to go through the seizure, and I was just talking to him because during the seizure, like he's there, he hears, like, but his body's just firing all these signals, and like his mouth and face and his hands were twitching. And after administering the medication, the seizure kind of slowed down, and then his breathing kind of relaxed a little, and he started breathing better, but the seizure was still continuing, and his oxygen saturation came up, and it was in the 90s. So I kept on just reminding myself to stay calm, be present, and I kept my hands on him. I kept him on his chest, and then I transferred him and held his head, and I just declared and confessed the healing through every cell in his body, and his brain cell, his nerve cells, his muscle cell, and just rebuked the seizure to stop, and there was another half an hour went by, and I was leaving him. We were just standing by, and Dennis was with me the whole time, and we were just praying and holding him, and through the seizure. And then another half an hour went by, and decided to administer the other half of the medication and just stay in peace, because now it had been a full hour of him being in the seizure. And I kept on glancing at the clock. Usually even with the medication, about 5 minutes goes by, and it's supposed to kind of like work within 5 minutes, and even though my mind kept on racing, like, okay, maybe it's time to call 911, it's been an hour, I kept on confessing and saying, we're not going to need to go to the emergency room. Isaac is doing well. Isaac is safe. Isaac's body is going through a healing phase, and it just felt like a lot of this trauma and stuff that of even ending up in the emergency room with seizures, and it was so hard for me, and I can imagine how hard it is for him, and like just staying so peaceful and present in all of this. Like, I knew it was only God that could provide me with this peace and a wisdom to know what to do, and just having Dennis there as support, because it's just hard to be there alone and when your mind starts racing. But Dennis was just so grounded and staying there with me and giving me water to drink and supporting me, holding me through all of this. And another half hour went by, and I felt like my prayer was getting more like fervent, like the seizures gotta stop. This is like an hour and a half. Just kept on speaking life into his body and restoration, and then all of a sudden he sneezed, and I knew the seizure was over. Like, and then usually he would get he gets like a vomiting episode after, and I picked him up and just held him, and he did have like vomit after, and then he was just really still, and so I held him, and Dennis held me, and it was just such a peace overcame me, 'cause I never thought like I could go through this, like knowing how God has created our bodies to heal and restore, and sometimes like knowing that even a seizure could be beneficial. And the fact that it happened on Mother's Day was like, I guess it was kind of like the best day for it to happen, because it was like a gift to me of something was happening. Like I see God through it all. And this seizure started with like 4:30, 4:40 in the morning, and then so finally once we kind of got cleaned up and took a nap, and then Dennis's family came to visit and spend the day with us, and we just stayed with Isaac, and he usually sleeps after, because it's so exhausting for his body to even go through a seizure and then even the medication and stuff. But I just wanted to share how good God is, and like He's such an amazing provider and support, and I'm so thankful for everybody who texted Happy Mother's Day. It was such a gift for me to just know that people were thinking of me, and not knowing like everything I was going on through. So thank you.